Good day, everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Display Solutions of America. And for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who have been tuning in since early 2020, we'd like to welcome you back. As you know, we develop these webinars so that our customers, resellers, integrators, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products and solutions, especially during this last year when many of us were not able to meet in person. Today's webinar is a special Tech Tuesday, and it's entitled Spatial Reality Display. Discover a new visual medium to enhance your digital signage space. And before we start, a few items of housekeeping. As in all of our webinars, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. So please submit your questions via the in-event meeting question panel. We'll post links to information referred to throughout the webinar in the chat panel, and we'll also post a link to our YouTube channel where you can see all of our archived Tech Tuesday webinars. Joining me today will be Nick Colsey, Vice President of Business Development, and Jay Leedy, Senior Manager of Business Development for Sony's Home Entertainment and Sound of America. So join us now for an engaging panel discussion, and we'll see you back here for Q&A. So Nick, good afternoon and welcome.
Hi, John.
Let's begin with the product and in its basic form, what does it do? I know that spatial reality display, SRD stands for spatial reality display, but could you expand a bit?
Sure, yeah. So it's a glasses-free 3D display, and as you can see in this video that's rolling, it's a kind of desktop form factor or kiosk form factor. Um, Here we're showing an example of a 3D car created for us by Volkswagen in Unity, and the viewer. Um, is able to see, in full 3 dimensions without any glasses. And we'll come on to exactly how they do that. But the really unique point here is eye tracking. So the display and your 3D model, whether it's created in Unity or Unreal, um, knows where your eyes are and is able to send two different images, um, left and right eye, uh, to the display, and you see in 3D without needing any kind of headset or glasses. So, spatial reality display. This is a successful award-winning product for us. Really, every trade show where we've showed it, pretty much it has picked up an award. Just recently at Digital Signage Experience, we won Best Demo, which we're very pleased about. So um, uh, we'll go on to talk about the technologies involved in it and some of the ways that our customers are using it. Next, yes, thank you. Um, so it's a 15.6-inch LCD display with several unique technologies built into it that make it a 3D display, and you would use it with a gaming type PC, at least Core i7, GeForce 2070, that kind of processing and graphics power, and running Unity or Unreal. Next slide, please. To take you through those unique technologies, first of all, the eye sensing. So this is done with an optical sensor that's built into the display. So that's what's tracking your eyes and telling the Unity or Unreal object how to change the rendering in order to give the viewer a 3D image, two different images to left and right that is really as accurate as possible. There's a micro-optical lens layer over the LCD. So what that does in both the horizontal and vertical parallax, that divides what the viewer is seeing into left and right. So as you move around, as we saw in that video at the beginning, as the viewer moves around, maybe looks to the left to see what's on the left side of the object, or looks above to see what's on top of the object. The image is re-rendered, and they see a very accurate view of the object in 3D. And really, the screen itself, the flat screen, kind of disappears, and what you're looking at, because of its quality and because of the way that it's rendered, what you're looking at is appears to be real. And then the real-time rendering algorithm, finally, that's what is instructing the Unity or Unreal object to change the rendering in order to match where the viewer is viewing from. Next slide, please. So going into a bit more detail about this eye tracking and the vision sensor. We sometimes call it a camera, but it's not really a camera as such. It's an industrial sensor. It is tracking the movement of whoever is watching down to the millisecond, sensing their eye position, all across the range by which they might be viewing the screen. So if they stand up or move to the left or to the right, or if the viewer moves away and then a second viewer comes into view of the screen, it's switching who it is tracking, and it's doing all of this very quickly and in order to give the most real-time accurate experience of the object. Next slide, please. So the micro-optical lens, this is kind of analogous to a lenticular lens, but it's in 3 dimensions because it allows you to view the vertical parallax as well as the horizontal parallax, so you can see the top of objects as well as the left and right of objects. And this is very precisely aligned with the pixels on the LCD display. It's a 4K display, so 8 million pixels. So there's a lot of lenses as well, and all aligned with those 8 million pixels. Next slide, please. And then the rendering algorithm. So this, in conjunction with the 3D model on the PC, this is changing the perspective, changing the view of the object as the user looks around it, and the object itself, of course, can be moving as well. So, as a result, because the image is very high quality, 2K to each eye, 4K screen, and it's rendered very smoothly. As long as you have a high performing PC, then what you're looking at appears to be very real. Next slide, please. So great technology. Why do you need it? Who would use it? So we think there are many applications, just a few examples here. Filmmakers and animators, automotive designers, the architectural community, VR, AR content creators, and we'll talk about a few others. But first of all, we have a quick video of some of our customers and how they use the product. So first of all, this is a design consultant, the Mill, and they created this content based on a kind of flying car, and of course through a webinar like this, you're only seeing 2D, but if you see the actual demo, which I hope you'll get a chance to, this is all in 3D. This is an architectural demo, so you can interactively place furniture in an interior, change the way the exterior of the building looks based on lighting conditions. This is a partner we have in the dental domain, so they create very accurate renderings of the way artificial teeth would look. And then finally, we have shop architects. This is an architectural demo, and they built a tool by which you can create and navigate the architectural model. And then no story about 3D would be complete without NFTs. So we sold a number of NFTs earlier this year with the SRD. So a great way for you to enjoy your NFTs in your home. Um, this is an educational example. Then White Moon Dreams is a game developer. So instead of printing out 3D models of their game characters, they can now see them in 3D in real time without waiting. And this is really one of the best demos that we have out there right now. Um, so yeah, let's dig in a little bit more with some of these case studies and some additional ones here. So car design, we've been working with Nissan Motor for previewing cars and parts of cars in 3D. Digital Nation Entertainment, we saw briefly there. So this is a motion capture studio, volumetric capture studio. So they're able to capture, usually a person in 3D and digitally transpose that person into a different environment or send them across to a remote location. And being able to use spatial reality display to check the 3D capture that they've done is invaluable for them. They tell us. Shop Architects is a architectural house, so using 3D using SRD to show 3D models to their client without actually having to build a real life 3D model. Next slide, please. White Moon Dreams is the game developer, and we're really just scratching the surface there as far as what can be done with gaming with a 3D display without needing an uncomfortable headset. The NFT that we sold earlier this year, and huge potential in that industry. A studio that creates 3D content for the music industry. So we did a collaboration with Tate McRae last year, where she was able to perform a live concert virtually in a 3D space. Next slide, please. Siament, which is a Japanese company that is using SRD for viewing medical images in 3D. And creating something that looks very real and is rendered in real time and enables doctors to see things that they could not otherwise see in a 2D screen. SmileFi, the dental preview of Smile Design, and finally AU, American University, created a 3D story narrative, which was presented at the Cannes Film Festival. So yeah, that's about it as far as my presentation is concerned. Thank you, and yeah, let's open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, Nick, this is an awesome solution that has really a wide array of applications. And you covered a lot of ground there. So let's try to unpack it a little bit. I think I'd like to toss it over to Jay and ask Jay, what critical considerations are necessary to effectively install and deploy and use this solution?
Thanks, John. Yeah, a lot to unpack, as you mentioned, and I think obviously there's a huge amount of technical capability that's packed into this device to deliver a 3D experience, and sometimes that can get lost on the audience depending on how deep they are technically. So I maybe tend to oversimplify it when I present this product, which I love to present because it's inevitably the kind of wow factor and what people get others driving into our exhibition stands as a result of. But I kind of say it's similar to the viewfinders that we grew up with. The Viewmasters that had two different focal lengths to deliver this kind of 3D effect. And in some respects, it's similar to that. If people are kind of struggling with getting their minds around parallax and kind of all these various technical kind of considerations that delivers this experience. But um, to deliver that experience, as Nick touched on, there's kind of some minimum requirements. So local compute and graphic processing at the installation location of the SRD is required. Um, that is, at the very least, a i7 processor, and I think you said a 2080 um, graphics card, right? That those are pretty common now. We find that the more you invest in the graphics processor, the better overall performance you're going to get, or the less heat you're going to get generated by your machine. But these are beefy machines that are required currently. Most of them are gaming PCs that can be kind of tucked under kiosk stands or positioned relatively close, but not on a rack, so to speak, because you have to have it relatively adjacent. So um, just bear that in mind if you're considering SRD, that you need this compute power to reside locally, and that processing, as you can imagine, as Nick touched on, all the kind of technical things that are going on under the hood is really reliant on a fast, I think it's a USB 3.0 connection directly to the PC, as well as a pretty beefy processor to deliver that experience.
Thanks, Jay. Nick, back to you. I'm curious. Can you speak a little bit more about the SDKs and the various platforms that the developers can use to create content for the SRD?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're creating 3D content today, chances are you're already using Unity or Unreal Engine. So these are the game engines that obviously was started out being used for creating games, but are now very widely used for anything that is 3D and animated, or with motion, or with interactivity to it. Um, and if you're an architect, you may be using SketchUp for your creation of the architectural model or rendering. But as a more easily transferred portable file format, you might output from SketchUp into Unity, for example. And so that's why we've really focused on having SDKs that work with both Unity and Unreal. And those platforms are evolving, and we're updating the SDKs as new versions of those game engines come along. We also get inquiries from time to time about other 3D rendering technologies. So we have an API that's available too. So you can go to our website and see our developer site and see more details about that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nick. Jay, I know that Nick showed quite a number of case studies and examples in his slides and also in the video. Can you talk a little bit more about potential uses? As I know there are new ones coming to the table every day, and every time we go out to a trade show, we hear from end users who instantly think of unique applications. But I know you've spoken with a lot of clients over the past year or so. Can you talk a bit more?
Sure. Yeah. You're right. That when we show this at any given show, there's kind of two inevitable things that happened. One is we get a flood of ideas from people that have seen this for the first time, and we also tend to win awards. As I mentioned, it's really one of my favorite things to show, because I can show kind of the breadth of the Sony range and really speak to, already very strong offering with Sony, and then punctuate that by saying, now you've seen almost everything that we have. How would you like to see the coolest thing in the entire show? And I usually get people with furrowed brows that are pretty skeptical about whether that's going to be the case. And almost every time they walk around saying, holy cow, that was amazing. I can't believe this. I have to go tell my friends. So it really does um, require you to see it in person in order to understand how great this technology is. And as a result of those discussions, there's a number of things that have come out of that. So um, at the most recent event that we showed this at, Digital Signage Experience in Las Vegas, it's obviously very focused around digital signage. It was also an adjacent show to a lighting dimensions show that in this particular case, was really a departure. But in many cases, we have people thinking about using SRD as a way to create a wow factor in retail applications, either for end caps or in luxury jewelry environments where they can mitigate risk from bringing out very expensive items from behind the counter and showing people kind of the breadth of a line that maybe it's either too risky to have all on show, or maybe there's inventory shortages in a particular location. Maybe it's just not cost um, effective to have the full breadth of a particular line in a given retail environment. So the idea of having an endless aisle that really is able to kind of showcase these products much more realistically than a 2D presentation is, one potential outcome. We have a number of creative agencies that have seen this and immediately understand um, that this can be a consultative device to help clients that have commissioned work better understand conceptually where these creative agencies are going. Um, in many cases, those that are commissioning this type of work, maybe it's difficult to make a conceptual leap and understand exactly how things are going to play out in three-dimensional space. So SRD is a really great way to illustrate those types of scenarios, whether it's architectural, automotive design, aeronautical design, but also for, as Nick touched on, NFTs, where people may be considering making a purchase or have made a purchase of an NFT. And I think the general consensus in the market around NFTs in general is, what do you do once you buy it? How do you show it off? I mean, these are effectively pretty substantial investments in artwork. So SRD is a great way to showcase that artwork in your home, or we've seen interest by galleries that are focused on the NFT market, where they really want to kind of feature these items that sometimes are a little conceptually kind of removed from the buyer, let's say. Um, the last one that I wanted to kind of reiterate that is I think really interesting is in the medical side, where we have an opportunity to help radiologists and orthodontists illustrate what is about to happen or what has been the outcome of a particular procedure to a non-medical professional, or in some cases as a distance learning tool to emerging medical professionals, and help bridge the divide conceptually for what is going to happen, and help just kind of put everybody's kind of fears to rest, or get everybody on the same page if you've got multiple practitioners that are all kind of coming together around a particular procedure recommendation. So we're just kind of scratching the surface on this, but we see a lot of potential in this as a consultative tool in that regard.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I know that we just dropped in the chat a link to some of the application stories. So I want to remind everyone to please uh, go on over there and at your leisure visit and get a little bit deeper into the case studies. But as you say, I think literally we're just scratching the surface here, and the limits are really just the only limits are the creativity of the individuals who are thinking about how best to use this. And Jay, I know you mentioned digital signage experience, and Nick, I wanted to congratulate both you and Jay on the award that you were given by Rave for best demo of show, and I think that speaks a lot because it's an exciting with a lot of exciting technology, and to be bestowed that honor, I think is very cool. So congratulations to you both and the entire team, who's who's focused on creating and developing and making this solution a success. Um, Nick, I was wondering, this is a very technically sound product, but wondering if you could expand a little bit more on the key features and why are these so important?
Yeah, this is not the only 3D glasses-free display out there in the world. Um, but based on our experience of all these, over 20 trade shows just this year alone, people keep coming to us and saying, this is the best that they've seen. This is the most realistic that they've seen. And I think the way that we do that is obviously based on the core values of Sony's display business, which is to make the best displays, the best picture quality possible. So that DNA is running through this product as well, and being laser focused on the idea of using eye tracking. So only one person can see the 3D image at a time. But what that does is uses all the pixels on the display for that one viewer. So they're getting the very best possible 3D image with the smoothest motion, the most realistic parallax effect, and all the other 3D glasses-free display solutions out there are compromising on some of that quality. And from our perspective, what we want to offer the customer is really the very best quality, the most real looking image in 3D.
Thanks, Nick. And we've got a number of questions coming in from our attendees. But before we jump into those, I just wanted to ask you, where can where can everyone find out more about spatial reality display? And better yet, where can they request a demo?
So go to sony.com/SRD, and I think we'll be posting those links to find out more about SRD. And I think somewhere in there you'll find a link to request more information, so to sign up for our updates. And through that you can certainly request a demo. It's and of course, if you have a Sony rep that you work with, then talk to them, and they can certainly help you too.
Wonderful. Let's jump right in here. Like I said, we've got a number of questions. The first one is from Lisa, and she's asking, is it possible to have more than one viewer on a single display?
Right. No, this is really focused on a single user. It's kind of a desktop use case, desktop device. So a lot of 3D creative people are using it as their second monitor. So they would have a 2D monitor to one side, doing their creating and editing on, and then the SRD next to it, so they can output a 3D image and check their work, check that there's no occlusions and errors in what they've created in 3D by actually viewing it in 3D. So that's that's the way that we're able to get the very best quick picture quality. The more people that view a 3D image on an LCD type of display, it's certainly technically possible, but each additional person is viewing less and less pixels, because the pixels I see from where I'm sitting going to be different to the pixels that somebody else is seeing from if they're sitting next to me or behind me. And the only way that you can see 3D on a display like this without glasses in the very best quality is seeing two different images, and those are going to be different depending on the person that is where the person is viewing from.
Understood. Understood. Thank you. Jay, we've got a question from Anthony, and he asks, will this work if the person viewing the display is wearing dark sunglasses?
Yeah, so it really needs to see your eyes. And so we found in cases where in scenarios where someone might not have an anti-reflective coating on their glasses, for example, depending on the position of the light relative to those glasses, it can create some interference. Definitely, if there's sunglasses on, it would create a challenge for the camera to acquire their eyes and deliver the effect that is desired. So sunglasses are definitely out of that equation.
Yeah, I think having said that, what we're doing with we call it eye tracking, but the way that we track the eyes is actually starting from the face. So we track the whole of the face, and using artificial intelligence, we figure out where the eyes are, and clearly that works a lot better if you can actually see the eyes. But even with dark glasses on and without being able to see the exact position of the pupils, the system is still at least taking a stab at figuring out where the pupils are, and clearly the more roadblocks you put in front of a system like this, the accuracy is going to go down, but you should still be able to experience it.
Thanks. Next up is Pete, and he asks, do we have any examples of using live video with SRD?
Yeah, so obviously it gets a little bit into how you define video, but we have some partners that are using this for live communications, in which, for example, at the far end, they are using volumetric capture to capture, say, a person's face, and capturing that into a Unity file, and then transmitting that Unity file to a remote location, the near end, if you like, where the spatial reality display is, and can display that image of the same person virtually in real time. I know that's not video, but because video is one frame after another, and this is really using the power of Unity and LiveLink and technologies like that. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Sure, got it. Thank you. And thanks for the question, Anthony. We've got a question from Christopher, and maybe Nick, you'd be best to answer this. He's asking, will there be additional sizes available?
Yeah, well, it's not the first time we've had that question, and I think this is the size that we have today, and that's really a desktop form factor, and based on a balance of cost and performance, etc. But we have the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas coming up in a few weeks' time, and I guess all I can say is watch this space. We will have some updates regarding spatial reality display at that show.
Fantastic. We'll all stay tuned for sure. Jay, question for you. Maybe George asks, can you directly interface to 3D creation programs like Maze or Unreal Engine?
So if I understand the question, it's about directly designing using those design platforms and seeing the result of those design efforts reflected in real time on the spatial reality display monitor. And I believe that there's a render that has to happen. It's really, honestly, a better question for Nick. He's lived in this world for so long. He probably has some better insight on how we achieve that. But I believe that there's a render and an export that has to happen through those tools in order to make that file available to be rendered in the spatial reality display. Is that a correct statement, Nick?
Yeah, Unreal Engine, absolutely. Yes, we already have an SDK on our website for Unreal Engine. So any content that you've built in Unreal Engine, just download our SDK. You don't even need to have the SRD to do that. You can just download the SDK. And what the SDK is doing is setting the camera positions in your project. And those camera positions, when the object is rendered on the spatial reality display, the camera positions will follow where the viewer's eyes are. So that's really connecting the eye tracking technology to the model that you've created. Maze, that's not something that we have a direct implementation of. Of course, any 3D tool, if you're able to output to Unreal Engine or Unity, then you can view on SRD that way.
Okay, and here's another common one. Um, touch capability. Is there any plan to implement touch?
So we get a lot of system integrators who receive that request from their clients, from their customers, and the best way to really think about SRD is, it's a computer monitor. So any kind of touch capability that you might want to use with a computer monitor, you can also use with SRD. We prefer it if you don't actually touch the screen or put an overlay on the screen, because that could affect the picture quality. But we've had very good results working, where customers have worked with Ultraleap for gesture controls, which can kind of virtualize the touch experience, and a few other tools that are out there that can make a conventional display into a display that can react to gestures or even touch.
Thanks, Nick. And we've got another follow up question from Chris. He asks, can I connect the output to a projector?
Well, it's a display, so it just has inputs. So your PC would you would connect the graphics output from your PC over HDMI to the spatial reality display, and if you had a second graphics output on your PC, you could connect that to a projector, I guess, in the same way as you can connect a second monitor. It's really up to the capabilities of the PC.
Okay. And our final question is from Leslie. She asks, where can I buy this? How can I buy it?
So I think talk to your Sony rep, and if you also go onto the Sony website, you'll see various links to resellers or Sony.com where we also sell it. But lots of different ways.
Well, thank you, Nick. Let me just do a quick check for any final questions. I don't see any here in the chat panel. So I want to thank both you and Jay for joining us today as special guests on our Tech Tuesday. And especially thank everyone who sets aside the time to spend with Sony on these webinars and panel discussions. We really appreciate everyone spending time with us. And as a reminder, just to let everyone know, we depend quite a bit on your feedback as well as your input. So please let us know what kinds of webinars, what things you'd like us to cover, the topics, the products and solutions that you'd like us to cover in the future. And just to let you know, we'll be having a very special RV on AV in 2 weeks on Tuesday, December 20th, where the Vice President of Sony's Professional Display Solutions, Rich Ventura, will get together with a very special panel to do a bit of a recap on 2022 and a bit of a look ahead on what lies ahead in Pro AV and professional display in 2023. So again, thank you all. Wish you all the very best for today and beyond. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.